Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam. I'm so excited to be here today. This is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. It's a new year and, well, it's a new podcast. This is the Life and the Movies podcast with myself and my co-host, Jacob Martin. I'll be introducing him in just a second. But today, we're going to be talking about January movies, the January 2022 movies, talking about hashtag Make TASM3. Should they do it or should they not? And just talking about our New Year's resolutions. But before we go any further, I want to introduce my co-host, a good friend of mine, Jacob Martin. Jacob, how's it going, man?
Hey, Ryan, how's it going? It's been really great. I hope you had a wonderful 2021 Christmas season and everything. I have a movie review channel on YouTube as well. I do movie reviews and TV reviews, ranking videos and stuff like that. Ryan's been on my channel a couple times. We've done collab reviews throughout 2021. We've done reviews for movies like The Great Dictator and The Lost Weekend, the Billy Wilder film, and we recently did one on Hacksaw Ridge for Veterans Day. So it's great getting to know Ryan, and I'm excited to do this podcast with him throughout the year, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of your review channel because I was thinking, like, I don't know why I didn't say, oh, he's a movie reviewer as well. So thank you for reminding me of that. And his channel will be linked in the description below, as well as his Twitter. Seriously, go check him out. He's got a great channel. But
I actually just started a second channel recently.
That's right.
Yeah, I did a second channel where it's more on reading, where I'll be doing read-alongs of various books and book reviews. I wanted to get back on the reading grind, which is something I hadn't done since I graduated high school about 8 years ago now, which is hard to believe. And I'm currently, at the time of this video, either continuing on or just wrapping up Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a book I haven't read since I was a kid. Obviously, I love the movies, one of my favorite film franchises of all time. My second favorite, actually, behind Star Wars. And I'm excited to go for all those books again.
Yeah, Sorcerer's Stone is one of my favorite books ever. On my bookshelf back there, you all probably can't see it, but I've got the original copy that my dad bought for me. It's beat up and torn, the pages, the corners are just nearly ripped to shreds, but I've kept it because it just reminds me of when I would read it constantly, and also listen to the audiobook by the incredible voice actor Jim Dale. Jacob, I'm not sure if you're big into audiobooks, but listen to the audiobooks of Harry Potter. Jim Dale, that man, he voices all the characters. He's incredible. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I have to check that out.
So, like I said, the title of this podcast is Life and the Movies. So we're going to talk about our lives and just life in general, and we're going to get into some movie discussion. But first, let's talk about some New Year's resolutions. So, Jacob, do you have any New Year's resolutions, or do you believe in them first and foremost?
It's a little tricky for me because it seems like every time I make a New Year's resolution, they tend to not actually happen halfway into the year and stuff. So I just kind of take it at face value. I will say 2021 was the best year that I've had on, especially YouTube-wise. I started doing more collabs with other YouTubers, and my subscriber count went through the roof. I'm really close to 500 subscribers, and I think at the beginning of the year I was, about just under 200 subscribers. So it's grown drastically since my channel got started. So I guess if I have any New Year's resolutions, I'd say hopefully keep the channel growing, maybe do some more collabs, and then now that I'm starting my second channel, develop an even bigger audience over on the second channel that's into reading and literature and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of on the same track in terms of New Year's resolutions. I think setting realistic goals is more of a healthier school of thought to subscribe to. Saying, these are the things that I can control, these are the things that I'm interested in. If I shoot for something reasonable towards that, then it will be a success. For example, for me, I wanted to get my fitness under control because during like the height of COVID and the lockdowns and everything, I gained all the weight that I had lost back when I had left college, and so I had lost all of that all throughout 2021. I got my eating like under control, eating right, my exercise, a steady exercise regimen, and it's worked. It's worked wonders. So I'm just gonna aim towards keeping on track of that, and also maintaining the good habits that I have kept on there, as well as my YouTube stuff. This is the best year that I've ever had on this platform. I've been reviewing movies for about 5 years now, and 2021 was my biggest year. Like I met you for the first time. We did our first collabs, worked with Rachel, our mutual friend from Rachel's Reviews, did more stuff with her. I did more stuff with the Suit Up Geeks podcast. I won 3 of their trivia showdowns, and I'm going to be doing more of those. So it's just all about fostering relationships there. And outside of that, in my day job, I got the biggest day job that I've ever had, like in my career, like in March of this year, or well, last year when this goes up. So I'm going to be approaching a year there. And so I just gained a lot of positive momentum in 2021. And I guess my resolution is everything that I did good in 2021, I'm just going to double down on that.
Yeah, that's definitely a great goal to have. And I think you're kind of on the same boat as I am as far as, with growing the channel and the best things that happened last year. Just keep going at it, and hopefully things will get even better. Also, anyone new to Ryan and his channel, definitely special shout out to Rachel's Hidden Gems podcast that he and Rachel does. That is a fantastic podcast. I've been listening to that all throughout 2021.
Well, thank you. It's so much fun working with Rachel, and I intend to keep that relationship going as well, both with her and with Hallmarkies, because let's just say I do some editing for her on the side there. I don't even watch some of the shows that she covers that I edit for, but like just listening to them just out of context, it's weirdly kind of fun. I don't know how to explain it, but it's also fun. So it's all about just doing what I did in 2021, just doubling down on what I was doing actually pretty well. So what are your New Year's resolutions? Leave them in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say about that. So moving into some movie discussion. Now this was something that had been brewing on social media for quite some time, especially with the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, which congratulations to them. They just crossed $1 billion. So it's a very happy day at Kevin Feige's house. Let's just say that. But there's been a growing movement called #MakeTASM3. Hashtag Make the Amazing Spider-Man 3. I'm not going to go into too deep a detail onto the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and all the drama that went on behind the scenes there. Let's just say that Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man got done real dirty. And so he kind of left on a bad foot. Certainly not his fault, but it was a rough situation. However, with his appearance in No Way Home, it lit a fuse, and just everyone has just been like, hey, like Toby's cool and Tom's cool, but let's give Andrew a shot. I'm going to be completely honest. I was never a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I thought they were just trying to be deliberately edgy as a gut response to people saying, oh, Spider-Man dancing? What is this nonsense? But I have always said that Andrew Garfield was a very good choice as Spider-Man. So I'm of two minds on this. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion. I've never been the biggest fan of the Amazing Spider-Man films either. No, that's not Andrew Garfield's fault. He's a fantastic actor. He's done so many amazing performances over the years. Hacksaw Ridge being probably my personal favorite performance of his. Fantastic movie. But I've always been a fan of Andrew Garfield in the title role. Like everything that he did character-wise in that movie was, even with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is definitely my least favorite live-action Spider-Man movie, he still gives a genuine performance in that movie. The relationship he and Gwen Stacy have, Emma Stone, they had some of the best chemistry in any of the Spider-Man films because of how well written the relationships were in that movie. Mark Webb was great at doing the romance elements in that movie because he previously did 500 Days of Summer, my favorite rom-com of all time. So seeing that play out in a comic book film was actually great. And the moment where Gwen Stacy dies in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Andrew Garfield's acting in that is some of the best in any Spider-Man film, how he processed the grieving process during such a tragic event. It was one of my favorite things in an otherwise pretty lousy movie. Now, I was super excited to see everybody back in No Way Home, but I'm glad Andrew got a second chance in that movie because his reappearance in that movie in the theater that I saw the movie in opening weekend got just as much wows and applause as much as Toby. So I'm glad Andrew is getting the love in the world right now. And I think with the whole multiverse storyline that they're doing in the MCU, I think it is fair to have more Spider-Man adventures, not just with Tom Holland. I say you can do more with Tobey Maguire as well, and especially Andrew Garfield. The other two films may not have been the best, but I'm open to seeing more of Andrew Garfield, especially after No Way Home. I think there's definitely a lot more he can do with his version of the character, with better writing and tighter script, great direction. I think his movies will be excellent going forward if that's the case.
You know, it's funny you bring up the theater experience of No Way Home because I went to see No Way Home twice. Both times, Andrew Garfield got the loudest reaction. Like I was taken aback because I was waiting for Toby. Toby is my Spider-Man. Like I grew up watching him. One of my first movies I ever saw in theaters was Spider-Man from 2002. So his Spider-Man holds a very special place in my heart. And I'll talk more about Toby in just one second. But when Andrew Garfield showed up, it was like babies were being thrown in the air. Everyone was so excited to see him. And so, like I said, I'm of two minds on this. I was never a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, especially number 2. I am with you on there, Jacob. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is my least favorite live-action Spider-Man movie by a significant margin. However, with the multiverse stuff, and it seems that Andrew Garfield loves this character and is willing to come back, I say go for it. I mean, you've got so many possibilities after No Way Home. You got so many possibilities, so many doors you can open. The possibilities are just endless, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people are hoping that Andrew's Spider-Man could team up against Tom Hardy's Venom. I don't know how you feel on that.
It would be interesting. I don't know. It kind of seems, with Morbius coming out in January, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit, but with Morbius and with Venom, and now with all the Spider-Men, like, is there going to be, like, is Morbius in the Venom side of things, and is Venom in the MCU now? That's one part of me that I was kind of confused about.
I was confused about that too, especially in like the end credit scene in No Way Home where you see Tom Hardy in the end. He got zapped away when the spell was made, but a little bit of that Venom goo was still there at the end. So I don't know what universe Venom is in now. Is there a side of Venom still in Tom Holland's universe? That's a little bit confusing, and I'm not a comic reader or anything like that. I'm just watching all these movies just as they are, so I have no idea.
Yeah, this is definitely. I've read more comics than probably you, Jacob, but I'm not like an avid reader. I read more graphic novels than anything else. But this definitely feels like they're planting the seed, and I think Venom, knowing that like a part of him is somewhere else, they'll probably have to go back and seek that out. I think This is something that Sony has been secretly pining for quite a while. I remember as far back as like 2017 or 18, they were trying to make a Silver Sable and a Black Cat thing happen, and that never saw the light of day. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 planned for a Sinister Six movie that never even saw the light of day there. So this has been something that they've secretly been wanting for quite a while, but Spider-Man sentiment right now is at an all-time high. So if they want to go Silver Sable, Black Cat, or Venom, or whatever they want to do, they have a captive audience. So whatever they want to do, I say time is of the essence, and now is the time to do it.
Yep, I agree.
So what do you think of hashtag make TASM3? That's such a mouthful of a hashtag. Leave it in the comments as well if you would like. It'd be interesting to hear what you all have to say about that, because I have experienced more Andrew Garfield Spider-Man lovers than I know what to do with on social media. Like, the dude has a following, and I was not prepared for it. I honestly was not. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I pop up on Twitter a lot, and I've seen so many people praise Andrew Garfield so much, and I know some people personally who say his films are the best. Like, I know a couple people who say The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man film. I don't get that personally. That's a messy movie, but I can definitely respect an opinion like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go quite that far. Like I said, I was never a fan of those movies specifically, but Garfield was the best part of both of them. I thought, especially The Amazing Spider-Man, I thought it was just Spider-Man from 2002, but just trying to be more darker and edgier in response to the Raimi stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it would be fun to bring Garfield back and try to do something more with him. But before we get into the January preview, let's go into what will be hopefully a recurring segment, like what we're watching right now. This is like movies, TV shows, like books we're reading, like what we're watching / reading right now. So Jacob, why don't you lead us off? What have you been watching / reading right now?
Well, when we're recording this video, it was the day after Christmas. So I've been watching a lot of Christmas stuff. I did a lot of Christmas stuff over on my channel, 31 Days of Christmas. I know, Ryan, you had a Christmas series on your channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed all your videos over there. I watched a ton of Christmas movies. I know just before Christmas, I watched movies like the 2009 version of A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, which I've always defended that one. That's one of my personal favorite versions of A Christmas Carol. I watched some Christmas movies I watched and didn't do reviews on. I just watched them for fun, like It's a Wonderful Life, which is my personal favorite Christmas movie of all time. The original Miracle on 34th Street, which I've always been a fan of. Edmund Gwynn's portrayal of Santa Claus being my absolute favorite. Obviously, I finished Hawkeye, the new series on Disney Plus. That was a lot of fun. The banter between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld was awesome. And Kate Bishop is one of my new favorite characters in the MCU. I can't wait to see more of her in the near future. And then on Christmas Day, I rewatched A Christmas Story, which that's a great Christmas movie as well. So many quotable, iconic moments in there. You'll shoot your eye out. Such a good movie.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Yeah, my dad and I actually watched A Christmas Story last night. That's our tradition. He always mumbles about it being on TBS. You're like, there's more commercials than there is movie, but thank God we have a DVR so we can just like skip through those. But Christmas Story is excellent. It's a movie that I could pretty much quote the entire thing if I really wanted to. It's a Wonderful Life is also excellent. A lot of what I was watching all throughout December was just stuff I was planning to review for my 25 reviews of Christmas, which, as of this recording, I have now rechristened as Christmania. Actually, one of my subscribers, shout out to Aaron White, hopefully he is watching this, he was like, oh, I can't wait to watch Christmania. And I'm like, Christmania. That sounds like a fun name, because my horror series is called Scary Mania. So I have Scary Mania and Christmania. So I have a nice symmetry between my long-running series. But also, as far as Hawkeye goes, I watched about 15 minutes of the first episode, and I have not gone back to see it. Honestly, the Disney Plus shows on the MCU Disney Plus shows, I just haven't been able to just get on board with. The WandaVision ending really didn't do all that much for me. I was not a fan of it. I watched about 20 minutes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I was not a fan of that. I guess my rationale being, why does Sam have to re-earn his status as Captain America when I thought that was already settled in Avengers Endgame? But maybe I just need to watch the rest of the show in order to get it. But I don't know, I just wasn't into it. I have not seen a single episode of Loki, and that's the one that everyone's like, Loki's the best. And I just was like, I got so burned by Winter Soldier, I just can't. And then Hawkeye was just, I tried it and I was just, I don't know, it's weird because if it wasn't for No Way Home, I would think the MCU would just have kind of a downer year this year, which is, I guess, understandable because when they release Avengers Endgame in 2019 and had kind of nothing in 2020 because of COVID, it seems like an off year was kind of understandable, but at the same time, I don't know, I just was not a fan of the shows, and that was a long unsolicited rant on the Marvel Disney Plus shows, but I guess my mind, once it starts, it really just can't stop.
Yeah, I've definitely heard interesting opinions on the Disney Plus shows. Some people enjoy them, some people don't care for them too much. I've personally enjoyed all of the Marvel content that's come out this year. WandaVision, I think I really loved it when it came out, but the more I thought about it, the less and less I was disappointed with the ending of the show. But I like a lot of the mysterious, the sitcom aspects of the show. And I really liked the second to last episode, which dealt with exploring Wanda's grief. I thought that was very well done. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I know people were split on that one. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was a good little continuation of Captain America's legacy with Sam and Bucky. And I thought the action was on par with some of the movies. Loki, I really enjoyed. That one was my personal favorite of the Disney Plus shows. Highly enjoyed What If, the animation style, and that was great. And I enjoyed seeing the alternate universe stories. And Hawkeye, I will admit, it did have a slow start. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first two episodes. I just thought there was just some weird setups in the first two episodes, and some of the plot lines just didn't really work for me. But I thought it got better as it went along. As soon as we got to see more of that interaction with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, and I think after that the action got a lot better. I enjoyed the interactions between the characters, and there's some cool stuff that happens in the final episode. So I get if you're not into these Disney Plus shows, but I think Hawkeye, is seen by many as one of the better ones, and I've seen some claim it's one of the best of the Disney Plus shows that came out because they liked how just lighthearted it was in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the reason why I stopped watching Hawkeye, and it seems so weird, but one of the first scenes of the first episode was Clint and his family going to see Rogers the musical. I don't know, there's a part of me that just really didn't like that, because when they were doing the whole I can do this all day song number, I as soon as I saw Ant-Man there, I was just like, Ant-Man wasn't at the Battle of New York. Unless they're referencing Endgame in that musical, then that's completely inaccurate. And maybe it is, I'm not sure, but I don't know. I don't know. That whole musical thing just kind of turned me off. It's a weird hill to die on, but I don't know.
I always took it as it's a Broadway musical, and it's like you're basing it on real events, like a movie based on real events. I mean, you have to take dramatic license somewhere.
That's fair. I will give it to you there, but I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. I feel like my main problem with these MCU shows is that it feels like they had a good thing going with Netflix, the Daredevil, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones stuff. They ignored that until No Way Home. And then it's like, oh, we've got this stuff now. It feels like with these Disney Plus shows, you can either take them or leave them and have like no, like you won't be missing all that much. Now, in the Doctor Strange teaser at the end of No Way Home, they did mention Westview, so it was like, okay, I'm glad I watched WandaVision to understand what Westview was referencing. But I think my main problem with these is that it's not required viewing. You can take them or leave them, and almost have like no real missing link or anything of the sort.
Yeah, I think it depends on the series too. Like, I have a feeling the Doctor Strange movie will incorporate stuff that happened in WandaVision, and since they're dealing with the multiverse, which was explored in Loki, which was kind of hinted at in that movie, it'll tie in. Loki will tie into that, and then What If explored the possibilities of the multiverse, and one of the episodes in What If revolved around an alternate Doctor Strange who turned evil, and there was an evil Doctor Strange featured in that teaser, Multiverse of Madness. So they were referencing What If in the trailer for that, which that was my favorite episode of What If, was the evil Doctor Strange one. And also, I feel like with a lot of these shows, sometimes you have to keep track of what's going on so you won't miss like the important details of certain things. Like in the post-credit scene of Black Widow, you had Yelena being tasked to go after Hawkeye because she believed that Hawkeye killed his sister, and they tapped into that in the Hawkeye series, and Yelena was in like the later episodes of that series. Won't dive too deep into that if you hadn't seen it, but Yelena was one of the highlights of Hawkeye the last few episodes of the series.
Well, anyway, I have a feeling I will go back to watch at least Loki because I'm a big Tom Hiddleston fan, but I don't know, I wasn't a fan of that. But also kind of just wrapping up the what we've been watching now thing for me. My mom and I watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which is just it still holds up to this day. I find that movie just so it's really really funny, and through starting this month, January, I'm just going to be going back into my kind of rotation of watching stuff for my I finally watched kind of things. Like I've got on my docket, I've got Scream, the original Scream, because I've never seen it. I've heard nothing but good things. Children of Men, which I actually have the Blu-ray for, have not seen it in quite some time, so it's going to be interesting to go back to that. And anyway, that's what I've got to look forward to.
You're not the only one who hadn't seen Scream. I thought I was the only one. That's up as yeah, I need to watch those movies too, especially with that new one coming out in January.
Because I strangely know David Arquette more for his stuff in pro wrestling than for his movie work, which I don't know how that happens, but there it is. But anyway, with that in mind, let's get into the main event of the evening, if you will. Let's talk about the movies coming out in January of 2022. And generally, January's not a good month for movies. It's kind of an in-joke, at least from what I've noticed online, that January is kind of like the dead season where all the bad movies get released in a year. It's either bad movies or the Oscar movies finally get shown in theaters. At least that's personally what I've experienced. I don't know what it's like for you, Jacob, but that's what it's like over here.
Yeah, it tends to be a dead month.
But there's at least a couple of the ones that I was able to find that at least look pretty fascinating. So let's get into that. First up, and this is actually not in a date order. This is just I found some. Jacob, you found a lot. Thank you so much, Jacob, for doing the additional research on that. But I found some. He found a lot more than I did, and we just compiled a list. So we're just going to go off of just riffing off ones that all of them are going to be released in January. So that's the connecting thread here. So first up is the 355. This was directed by Simon Kinberg, who has had heavy involvement in the X-Men series, among other things. I've seen this trailer, honestly, way too much. It feels like every movie I go to see nowadays, the 355 trailer is right there. It's like that and the Jackass Forever trailer. It's like those two are almost guaranteed to be in there. But this looks interesting. I like some of the women in here. I like Jessica Chastain. I like Lupita Nyong'o. Diane Kruger is a favorite of mine. Sebastian Stan's always cool. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Jacob, what do you think?
I've seen the trailer quite a bit of times myself at a lot of theater screenings. I'm kind of tired of the trailer at this point.
Yeah,
Premise itself, I think it could be interesting, like this female-led team action movie. I do like the cast, like you already said. I do have a soft spot for Diane Kruger, especially because of the National Treasure movies. And I like Jessica Chastain, Lupita Nyong'o, Penelope Cruz. But I don't know, just the whole action, just the trailer hasn't really been doing it for me. It looks very generic and it looks very disposable. I think it'll be one of those movies where it's fun to watch just on the strength of the cast, but I don't think it's going to be a memorable, greatest of all time action movie either. This is probably going to do better more as a red box rental or a streaming movie than something you'd see in the theaters. But that's just me personally. I don't know how you feel on that.
yeah, I completely agree with you. So, like, on a scale of 1 to 5 in terms of excitement, like 5 being very excited and 1 being like not excited at all, where do you fall on that?
I'm going to go 3 out of 5. I think it'll be a fun watch, but it's not one I'm super highly anticipated on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'll go 3 as well. It might be fun in the moment, but completely forgettable as soon as it's over. So moving on, let's talk about, well, what we were referencing in the last segment, Scream 2021 or 2022 style. I've still got last year on the brain. Scream 2022. This is yet another trailer that I've seen quite a bit of, and as someone who, up until, well, relatively soon, has never seen the original, I think it looks interesting. I've always understood that Scream was kind of Wes Craven kind of poking fun at the slasher genre and the genre that he was kind of the innovator of, if you really think about it, or at least one of the innovators of. He has no involvement. He is sadly no longer with us. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially since you got David Arquette back, you got Courtney Cox back, you've got all the originals, most of the originals back at the very least. So, Jacob, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, like you've already brought up, I haven't seen any of the Scream movies. Obviously, I know of their existence in pop culture. They're seen as some of the best horror movies in the last 20, 30 years or so. I've seen the trailer multiple times as well, and I'm definitely intrigued by it, which is why I do plan on checking out the other Scream movies before I go see the new Scream movie. It'll be interesting to see how the new Scream does without Wes Craven's involvement, because I'm pretty sure he directed all 4 of the Scream movies before he passed away. So I'm curious what another director is going to do with the material and see if they respect Wes Craven's legacy on the franchise and do it in a creative new spin. I'm really curious about this one.
Yeah, the only real thing that I know about these movies is that I believe in Scream 2 or 3, there's a bit of an in-joke where the director of the horror movie in question talks about how he's never wanted to direct horror movies. He's always wanted to direct romances, which was a bit of which was Wes Craven kind of taking a bit of a shot at himself. Because if you notice, along with the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Screams in his filmography, you'll also notice that Wes Craven directed 1 or 2 romantic movies, like Music of the Heart. And, well, if you read anything into Wes Craven, you'll know that he never wanted to direct horror movies. He just saw horror movies as his foot in the door. He always wanted to direct rom-coms. And so that was a nice little kind of funhouse mirror kind of look at, like, look at the man behind the camera, if you will. That's legit the only thing I know about these Scream movies.
I just know the opening scene in the first one has Drew Barrymore in it, and she's stalked by the slasher character. I think his name's Ghostface. And I
Ghostface.
think I know one of the spoofs is like, I don't know if it's Drew Barrymore or another character, but they asked one of the characters a question. It's like, who is the slasher in Friday the 13th? And then the character's like, is it Jason? And they're like, no, it's Jason's mother.
He doesn't come in until the sequel. No, anyway, on my scale, I think I would have to go 3.5. I think until I see the first one, I think it might go higher or lower. But I'm gonna go 3.5. Jacob, what about you?
I ended up going 4 because of my intrigue on the trailer alone. I am excited to check out all the other Scream films and hopefully see the new Scream film in theaters as well. Maybe not opening weekend. I actually have a dollar theater in my area, which that comes movies will play late, like a month or two late, over in that theater for a cheaper price. If I see it at the dollar theater, that might be the best chance to see that movie while I catch up on the other Scream movies.
Wow, I had no idea dollar theaters still existed. I
Yep.
actually had one close to me about like 6 or 7 years ago. It's sadly closed. It's now like one of those ale houses, like one of those ale house restaurants. It's like an ale house and then an MMA gym, and I think something else on the right. But it's one of those things. But
Yeah.
anyway,
When COVID happened, most of the big chain theaters were closed during that time, like AMC, Regal. The Dollar Theater was like one of the only theaters that stayed open even like after the lockdowns lifted, of course, and stuff. And so throughout late 2020, early 2021, I was seeing all the movies at the Dollar Theater, and that was the only time when new releases came out, they would go to the Dollar Theater opening weekend. Like we saw Wonder Woman 84 opening weekend at the Dollar Theater, and News of the World, and Godzilla versus Kong we saw over there before all the other big theaters started opening up again.
I was grateful enough to have an AMC in driving distance. They never closed. So I
Yeah.
was grateful enough to have an AMC relatively close to me. So when lockdowns finally kind of eased up, I was able to go there. But
Good.
shout out to dollar theaters. They are the cockroaches of the movie theater industry. You can't get rid of them no matter how hard you try. But moving right along, let's transition more transition into a streaming movie. Let's talk about Hotel Transylvania Transformania, brother. Now, actually, I've been a big fan of all of the Hotel Transylvania movies. I don't understand how or why. Maybe it's because I'm a big fan of the Universal monsters, but I've always gotten a kick out of these movies. Like even the ones like 3, which is seen by people as like kind of a step down. I think they're creative. I think they're funny. And I know people be like, Adam Sandler in a funny movie? What genjutsu is this? Trust me, the Hotel Transylvania movies are far better than they have any right to be. And this one actually looks along the same lines as the others. Jacob, how about you?
Yeah, I actually watched all the Hotel Transylvania films together last summer because I think the fourth one was originally supposed to come out in theaters in October, but I think people were concerned about like some of the COVID variants and stuff. I think Delta was rising at that time, and it
Hmm.
got pushed to streaming. I don't know why they pushed it on Amazon Prime instead of Netflix, because Sony have like Mitchell's versus the Machines on Netflix and stuff like that. But that's a rant for another day. But anyway, I do like the Hotel Transylvania movies. Considering I'm not the biggest Adam Sandler fan, I really like his Dracula. Like he provides some great charm to the character that I really, really like. And like you said, this does pay a lot of respect to the Universal classic monster films and does more of a comical spin on the characters that I do highly enjoy. I think 3 was my least favorite of the 3 movies, but it was still really good. 2, I thought was the funniest. I actually liked a lot of the cleverness and like the setup with a lot of the characters in that movie. And I like the message I thought was the best in the 3 movies. 4 actually looks pretty good. I think it's going to be on the same level as the other three movies. I think if it keeps the same wacky humor and comical energy that the other films have, I think it's going to be as good as the other ones. And I think the other thing that's weird about this one is Adam Sandler's not Dracula in the fourth movie. They actually have a voice actor that I'm actually subscribed to on his channel. Are you familiar with Brian Hole?
His name sounds very familiar.
Brian Hole, he has a YouTube channel. He does a lot of impressions on his channel. Like some of his popular videos, he'll go to the Disney parks and do impressions to all of the Disney cast members, especially as the popular Disney characters. Like he'll do Mickey, Donald, Goofy, so many characters. He's incredibly talented, and his impression of Dracula is spot on. It sounds almost like Adam Sandler, and he's voicing Dracula in the new movie.
Yeah, after watching the trailer before we started recording, I would have never known the difference. So clearly, they've got the right man to replace Sandler. So this might sound a bit high. I'm gonna go 3.5 on this one. As someone who is like kind of hot and cold on Sandler, I think I like him more as a person than as an actor. If you've read anything about him, you'll know that he's a genuinely nice person and tries to help people and do some good in this world. But sometimes a lot of his movies just kind of devolve into he and his friends just being unfunny grown-ups. But as far as Hotel Transylvania 4, I'm going 3.5.
Yeah, as a fan of the franchise, I'm going 4. I hope it's as good as the other ones. And I can't wait to check it out on Amazon Prime. It's weird it got dumped in January. This would have been perfect for an October Halloween release. I don't know why they dropped it on this month of all months.
Yeah, and considering the fact that Halloween was on a Sunday this year, or in 2021, that would have been a perfect kind of like, hey, kid, hey, families, are looking for something to do on Halloween? Hotel Transylvania 4, there you go.
Yeah.
So sticking with the streaming route, let's talk about the Tragedy of Macbeth. This is getting a lot of awards buzz. It's directed by Joel Coen, one of the Coen brothers. We all know who they are. Stars Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. I think by that, this should get an automatic 5 for me. These are two of my favorite actors going today. Frances McDormand can do no wrong, and Denzel can do no wrong in my eyes. It's like those two combined with Shakespeare, combined with A24, combined with Shakespeare. I said it again. But this is just one of those things that I think is going to get a lot of buzz. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And this is going to be on Apple TV Plus, and it will be in some theaters as well.
Yeah, Tragedy of Macbeth. I think I have 2 ratings for Tragedy of Macbeth. I think if you're into Shakespeare, if you're into like high caliber productions and artistic filmmaking, and if you love A24, they're the distributor for the movie. If you love the Coen brothers, if you love the acting, and if you love the story of Macbeth, it's probably going to be an easy 5 out of 5. However, I'm not the biggest Shakespeare guy, so I've never connected with that many of Shakespeare's stories. I find a lot of them very boring, and I find the dialogue very tedious, almost pretentious at times. And so this one doesn't do it for me at all personally. It looks like it's going to be a well-done movie. I'm excited. I don't know. I am not in a rush to see this film. I don't have Apple TV Plus. If I sign on for Apple TV Plus for a free trial, I don't think it's going to be for Tragedy of Macbeth personally. But it looks like it is going to be a well-made film with stunning black and white cinematography. I'm sure Denzel's going to nail the role, and Frances McDormand. And I think it's going to be a well-done movie, but it's not one that I'm latching on to personally. I've seen the Orson Welles version of Macbeth. I was doing a director project on my channel on Orson Welles about a year ago now. And even his version just didn't appeal to me either, even though it is a well-made movie and the acting in that movie is phenomenal. It's just something about his stories just don't really appeal to me. The only ones that tend to really latch me are like stuff that like take influence from the stories and do their own creative spin on it, like The Lion King, inspired by Hamlet, and West Side Story, inspired by Romeo and Juliet. Those are the ones I tend to latch onto more than like the literal Shakespeare adaptations. So I think if you're in the ballpark, if you love Shakespeare and you love his stuff, I'm sure it's definitely a 5 for you, but for me, it's more like a 2.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. Shakespeare can be a bit of hard work to get into. It's kind of like getting into comics. It's a lot all at once, but if you can get into it, it's going to blow your mind. But I can definitely understand there. The most Shakespeare thing I've probably ever seen is this play called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged. It's basically 3 actors trying to do all of Shakespeare's plays in like 2 hours. It is tremendously funny. The entire version is on YouTube, so if you type in The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged, you will find it, and it pokes fun at like Shakespeare cliches and other things in the dialogue and such. It is hysterically funny, and I've connected more with Shakespeare like inspired projects. Like West Side Story is basically Romeo and Juliet, but in 1960s New York, and Lion King, Jacob, like you mentioned. So I'm going into this just on the strength of Denzel and Francis, because those are 2 of my favorite actors going today. So it's going to get a 5 for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
So moving into keeping on the theme of period pieces, I know how to talk. Let's go into Cyrano. This stars Peter Dinklage, and this is a story this was directed by Joe Johnston, who also directed Darkest Hour, which was one of my favorite movies that year it came out. I love that movie to pieces. I don't know how to feel about this one, though. I think this might be a bit too lovey-dovey for my taste. I don't know, Jacob. What do you think?
Actually, I think it's Joe Wright, not Joe Johnston.
Yeah, you're
Joe
right.
Johnston did Captain America, The First Avenger, The Rocketeer, Jumanji. Joe Wright did Darkest Hour, and the infamous movie Pan with Hugh Jackman singing Nirvana in a Peter Pan movie.
We can't win them all.
Yeah. But this one looks interesting. I'm not familiar with the play, but I know this is apparently a musical, and I'm a sucker for those. That's one of my favorite genres. I don't know how I feel on the romance stuff. It looks a little too sappy for my taste, but I'm intrigued to check it out on like the strength of the musicals, the strength on the production designs, and I've always been a fan of Peter Dinklage. I've always been a fan of Peter Dinklage since Elf. Call me Elf one more time. I've always been a fan of him in that, and he's been one of my favorite comedic actors that just popped up over the years. So I'm excited to see a more dramatic turn from Peter Dinklage. I know he's going to pull that off. So I actually have a lot of interest and anticipation for this one, even though the director's been hit and miss for me. I haven't seen any of his older period pieces. Like I know he did like Pride and Prejudice or something like that. I hadn't seen that, but based on Darkest Hour, which I thought was a really good historical drama, I think this one has a lot of potential.
Yeah, thank you for helping me with I got my Joes confused, so thank you for that. But I'm not familiar with this play either. Talking to Rachel, she is super excited for this, but this is definitely something more her speed. And so for the strength of Peter Dinklage, because talk about someone who has overachieved, like he's got to be in the conversation for like greatest overachievers in movie history, because that man has been in so much, and despite him being, I don't know how to put it, but despite his limitations, if you want to call it that, like he has achieved far more than what would have probably been in line for someone like him. I'm trying to tap dance. I don't know what to say other than he's genuinely talented. So I'm going to give it a 3 just based on Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, I'm going 4. I'm really intrigued by this one.
All right, so now let's get into The King's Daughter, which was something that I really didn't know what to think of, but just on some of the cast, like William Hurt is in this, and I've always enjoyed him. Pierce Brosnan is in this. It looks interesting, Jacob. What do you think?
Yeah, I knew nothing about this movie until I did the research for it, and I still don't know what to make of this movie. Like, I had no idea what the story of the movie was going to be based on the trailer. I had to look up the movie's Wikipedia page. Apparently, it involves a king who's looking to find like eternal life or something through like mermaid tears or something like that. And the daughter ends up finding a mermaid underground, and she ends up having a connection with this mermaid and has to protect it at all costs. Pretty much, I don't know. It reminds me a little bit of E.T. in a lot of ways, but I don't know. This movie's not doing it for me. Like, the trailer just doesn't look that interesting, even with the big name talents. Like, if you watch the trailer, like Pierce Brosnan's in it, and William Hurt's in it, and Julie Andrews is narrating it. Those are all really talented people, but just the story is not really grabbing me based on the trailer. Now, the movie could turn out well when it comes out, but as is, I'm going 2 out of 5 on this one. This just doesn't look that intriguing. It doesn't look that good at all.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, 2 out of 5 as well. And in the words of James Bond from No Time to Die, history is unkind to men who play God.
Mhm.
So, anyway, let's move on to a movie called Redeeming Love, which I saw a poster for this literally like yesterday, as my dad and I were going to go see Matrix, and I had no idea this was even going to be a thing. I'm not even sure I still know what to make of this. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't know about this one either until I saw the trailer doing research for this. It looks cringe. Like, the dialogue was laughably bad even in the trailer. I have no idea what direction they're going with this story. It just looks like one of the bad romance fan fiction movies that will only appease a certain group of people, but for most people, this is going to be like, oh, why do they keep making movies like this? Yeah, I'm not too excited on this one. It just looks cheap and cringy, very emotionally manipulative. I'm not excited for this one at all. Probably 1 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, one as well. I don't know about it. It feels, I don't know what to say about it almost. It feels like they're trying to go for a certain message, and I feel like their heart is in the right place. But there's a big difference between intent and what actually happens. The intent is clearly there, but what actually happens, I don't know. I may have to see it, and it might be a surprise. Who knows? But
Yeah.
I'm same way, 1 out of 5. Now, taking a hard left, as I like to say to Rachel all the time, going from Redeeming Love to Ice Age: The Adventures of Buck Wild.
Oh
Now,
no.
to be completely honest with all of you, I've never been a fan of the Ice Age movies. My heart does go out to Blue Sky, who is sadly no longer with us. They produced some really good movies in their day. The Peanuts movie is definitely my favorite of what they made. I'm so sad that we probably will never get another Peanuts movie in that style because it was so much better than it had any right to be. But I don't know. I've just never been able to get on board with these Ice Age movies, and I'm just don't think I'll be able to get on board with this one either.
I have a lot to say on this movie.
You have the floor.
First off, I have a huge respect for Blue Sky. As soon as it was announced Blue Sky was closing down, I made it a mission on my channel to review every single Blue Sky film to pay my respect. Because even though they didn't make the best movies, they still had a lot of heart to their films. There still was a lot of care put into their movies. They didn't have like any Pixar level high movies or anything, but their heart was in the right place. And I have a huge nostalgia for the original Ice Age. It's one of my favorite Blue Sky films. It's like top 3 for me. The Peanuts movie being my favorite, and I think Spies in Disguise is a close second. That was a pleasant surprise. The Ice Age sequels, say what you will about them, they're not as good as the original, but some of them were enjoyable. I have a soft spot for Dawn of the Dinosaurs. I love Simon Pegg as Buck, which we'll be talking about him in a second. 4 is kind of a guilty pleasure. The last one is terrible. The Collision Course, that one I thought was garbage. And that's where they started milking the franchise, or I don't care about Ice Age anymore. Just stick to the old ones. Just enjoy them. The last one, I was like, why are they doing their own Armageddon-like story with trying to stop an asteroid from destroying the Earth? This is stupid.
All you need is Steven Tyler.
Yeah. But Buck Wild, just the whole project, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth because you got Disney making an Ice Age project after Blue Sky closed. And the animation from the trailer just looks cheaper. It looks like they're just making it just to cash in on the Ice Age films. And the fact that you're doing this after you shut down Blue Sky, that just doesn't sit right with me. It looks like it's going to be a lazy cash grab movie. It'll probably be one of the worst movies of the year if I actually sit and watch it. It looks absolutely terrible. I'll give Simon Pegg credit. He's like the only actor reprising his role in this movie as Buck, who was one of my favorites in the third movie, but I don't think he'll be enough to save the movie, unfortunately.
Yeah, Simon Pegg's kind of like bacon. He makes everything better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this. I'd go 1 on Buck Wild.
I'm right there with you. This feels kind of like one of those rights retaining movies. Kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw the gosh, I can't even remember the name of it now. It was really, really bad, but it was like Alec, like it was not Max Payne, but it was like a Alex Storm. It was based off of a toy line, and now I can't even remember the name of it. It was
Max Steel.
There you go, Max.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. I heard it was bad.
It's awful, but Buck Wild kind of feels like one of those rights retaining movies where if they don't do something with it, then they're just going to lose the rights. So it's like, hey, just do something with it. What do we do with it? I don't know. Just come up with something. That's what I felt like watching this.
Yeah, it looks really bad. It also reminds me of Four Stick because Fox was trying to keep the Fantastic Four rights for Marvel, and they made a cheaply put together Fantastic Four movie that was awful. One of the worst comic book movies I've ever seen.
You know, I've heard reports that Miles Teller can be very hard work, and so so there is that. However, I feel bad for everyone involved in this. Miles Teller, she was on House of Cards. Kate Mara, James
Kate
Bell, and Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan.
So
that was a great cast that was badly wasted.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan, like, he looks so lost in that movie. It's like, thank God Marvel did something good with him with Killmonger.
Yes.
Anyway, let's move on to one more streaming movie. Talk about Home Team. This stars Kevin James. Now, I actually am a big fan of Kevin James. I don't know if you all can see it, but I have a Kevin James poster back there. He actually did a stand-up show in Daytona where I live, or close to where I live, and he actually signed the poster for me. So I'm a big fan of his, both from his King of Queens days, and he's made some bad movies. I think Paul Blart 2 is just not very good at all. And Zookeeper was not great either, but the man is genuinely a nice guy, and he can be very funny. So I think I'm going to give Home Team the benefit of the doubt, but it just left me confused. Like, did Sean Payton sign off on this? Like, is he aware that this movie is happening? Because I don't know. This trailer left me with more questions than answers.
Yeah, I'm not too crazy on sports movies like this. I don't know if this is like based on a true story or anything. I'm not sure what the actual story of the movie is. I took it as the main character, Kevin James, is getting suspended. He got suspended from his big team, and he has to coach his son's home team. I have a soft spot for Kevin James. I never actually watched a single episode of The King and Queen, so I don't know too much about that. But Paul Blart Mall Cop is a guilty pleasure movie, and I still kind of enjoy that one to this day. I never saw the sequel, so that doesn't ruin it for me or anything. And I remember when it came out, I saw Here Comes the Boom, where he's like trying to be a wrestler in that movie.
An
And
MMA
that one
fight.
was kind of enjoyable in its own right, too. And then, of course, I think he's Frankenstein in the Hotel Transylvania movies, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's in Adam Sandler's friend group, so he gets into a lot of Sandler movies, which is kind of sad, but also, hey, it gets some work, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's always cool. It looks like a really dumb Happy Madison produced movie, but I don't know. You got Kevin James. He's a likable guy. It could be fun. And Taylor Lautner's in this movie, too. I noticed that in the trailer. And that just kind of cracks me up because he
I'm
disappeared for so long after Twilight. And he
I'm
just
surprised
randomly
that
shows up.
I'm surprised that man still acts. I mean,
Yeah,
considering that, like, they tried to make him a thing with this terrible movie called Abduction. I don't know if you've ever even heard of that, but
I saw it. It was terrible.
oh man. But I'm gonna give this one 2.5 just for the Kevin James factor. It might be fun, though I will add the asterisk of someone famous in one thing having a falling out and having to do another thing involving youth sports. That's the Mighty Ducks. Like, come on.
Love that movie.
Love that movie too, but it's just when I was watching this, I was like, this is so clearly the Mighty Ducks. All they need to do is a flying V and you'll be perfect.
Yeah,
So
I'm on the same ballpark. I'm going 3 out of 5. It could be a fun movie. It might not. We'll just see how it goes. It might win me over. It looks like a charming enough family sports movie.
very good. Well, let's close things out by talking about the movie that has been delayed numerous times, but thank God is finally coming to theaters, Morbius. Now, I have a feeling that I've been hot and cold on Jared Leto. I'm not a fan of his Joker, and this is coming from someone who's a DCEU apologist. I think the series is better than people give credit for. His Joker is just not good at all. But he is a genuinely good actor. He's won an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. So the man is good at what he does. But I don't know. With this one, I feel like this movie will get a bit of a boost because Spider-Man like love is at an all-time high. It does have a connection to that. But I'm not sure how to feel about this one. I think I'll just have to reserve my overall feelings for when I actually do see this. But Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on a similar boat. I've seen the trailer multiple times. It looks really intriguing, doing like a vampire story in the Marvel lore. I think is really interesting, but the trailers haven't really sold me. I'm very confused on the tone of the film. I don't know if they want to do a lot of dark horror aspects or make it a generic comic book blockbuster. I don't know where they're fully going with this. I've always tried defending Jared Leto because he is a really good actor. The Suicide Squad, his Joker, I don't fully blame Leto for that. I think he was genuinely making a unique Joker, but he was given very poor direction, and they cut all his stuff in the final cut. So he was badly wasted in that movie more than anything else. But I liked him a lot better in the Snyder cut, and I kind of hope we see more of them in the DCU with the Snyder cut alone.
Yeah,
But Jared Leto, he does some interesting stuff, and I definitely respect what he does as an actor and what he's willing to do to give really interesting performances. But I haven't been sold on Morbius yet, and it'll be interesting to see how it'll play out. I still plan on seeing the film, but I'm not fully sold on this one yet. But I'm gonna go 3 just because I'm still gonna see the film. I think Spider-Man No Way Home, the hype for that might give this movie a boost, like you said, but I'm not fully sold on the idea just yet.
I've seen the trailer for this multiple times, but it's one that I haven't gotten mad about seeing, mostly because I like what they did with People Are Strange by The Doors. I love The Doors, so whenever I hear that, it's like, I love this song. It's like that and the Matrix trailer with White Rabbit. like trailers have been stepping up their game with their trailer music lately. So there is that. And just in general, it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate Morbius into this whole thing. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because in the trailer, prominently, there's a frame that says "murderer" in spray paint over a Spider-Man thing, and Michael Keaton, seemingly as Vulture, is in this. So it's going to be fun to see what they do there. And also one more note before we close things out. One of my favorite moments in the trailer is when Morbius has got the guy, and the guy's like, "Who are you?" And Morbius is like, "I am Venom." And then he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. I'm Dr. Michael Morbius. I'm at your service." And I'm like the criminal's kind of dumb, because Venom always goes, "We are Venom, not I am Venom." But I always got a kick out of that part.
Yeah, that part kind of made me cringe in the trailer. I'm like, that just seemed like a cheap throwaway joke to me. But I think it'll be an interesting movie, to say the least.
Well, anyway, that's January. We've got some things that look promising and a lot of things that are not so. January is a bit of a throwaway month, but I always like to give it a shot, because this is the month where we get all the bad stuff, but also all the Oscar stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But what movies are you looking forward to in January? Leave them in the comments if you would like to as well. Well, Life in the Movies Episode 1 is officially in the books. Thank you all so much, as always, for watching. Thank you, Jacob. I'm looking forward to doing this with you for quite some time. And I know you brought it up at the beginning of the podcast, but where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. You can look up Jacob Martin, and you'll see my movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos. At the time of recording this, I'm on a temporary hiatus on my main channel, but after the new year, I'll have more content up again with movie reviews. I do a lot of director projects on my channel. I'm bringing back projects on my channel like Celebrating Disney and Superhero Saturdays. I also have a second channel that I just started, Storytime with Jacob, where I do read-alongs and book reviews. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Letterboxd. There's some exciting stuff coming your way.
And those channels and socials will be linked in the description of the video. And as for me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there is, of course, my YouTube channel, which you're watching this on. So if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like. Also subscribe, so that when a new video goes up, you'll be the first to know about it and hit notifications. As far as upcoming content, I'm going to be bringing back my I Finally Watched series for the original Scream, as well as Better Than You Remember. I've got that all planned out for Sundays. Also, looking at my board, I'm going to be bringing back Twilight Zone vlogs, which it was on a bit of a hiatus, but they will be returning as well. And I'll be talking about new releases as they come out. So thank you all so much for watching. My name is Ryan Cam. That's Jacob Martin. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.